How you doing, everyone? So we're back to talk about social issues in advertising. This will be the last part of our lecture for this week on Chapter 6. What are those social issues? Not respecting the dignity of individuals, ads that prey on people's fears, insecurities, or vanity, present people in stereotype roles, not promoting positive social values, or advertisements that promote uncontrolled materialism. The idea we can have anything we want in the world, right? When in fact we clearly cannot, right? That's called uncontrolled materialism. Negative human interactions, consumerism as the answer to your personal problems. So if you're going through a hard time in your life, if I'm advertising in a way that is going to get you to buy my product, and this sort of central motive behind my getting you to buy that product is that it's okay if if you're feeling down. If you buy my product, you're going to feel better. And we think about that. There's implications that are clearly unethical about that. So we always have to remember, again, and I put this on your slide, model the behavior that you want to see, right? If you're not prepared to behave in such a way, then you shouldn't be sort of promoting that to others, right? Or misleading others to think different things about what they're buying, product or service. So target marketing, and here I mentioned this at the beginning of the lecture as well. We're targeting particular population, and so what kinds of populations? Well, I put them on this slide here for you: children, the elderly, mentally incompetent persons, people battling pain or illness, right? If we target any of those audiences, how are we doing that, right? One great example that I've always talked about here is, and this has happened, I don't know how many times in history, but you'll see, for example, a McDonald's commercial with an athlete that's competing at the Olympics, and the athlete is sort of eating a Big Mac and having a Big Mac or drinking a Coke, right? And we think, okay, what are the ethical implications of that? Obviously, the athlete knows that they're not going to be eating McDonald's and competing in the Olympics at the same time. Most certainly, if they're going to have the fitness level that they're going to require. So at the same time, McDonald's is not the sort of greatest food that we have out there in the world. So what's the motive of this, target marketing that company might be doing? The company knows that the athlete doesn't consume the product, but yet is willing to pay or compensate the athlete to make it look like they would. They would buy a product, right? Or they would endorse that product when in fact they don't. So that's an issue that happens clearly as a result of people being compensated for saying things. Now, do we want, as a society, our children to look out there at these advertisements and believe that Olympic athletes consume McDonald's food, right? And the answer is probably, for the most part, I would say it would be difficult to sort of not agree with that sort of summation, right? At the whole of it. What I think is interesting about this is that targeting marketing, if we're ethical practitioners in the workplace and we want to communicate or possess a real, genuine moral character, we have to sometimes think about how an organization is presenting a product to its consumer. And that's really the ethical implication of all of this. If we see unethical lines, or if we see values that are in question, then we should ask questions. We should inquire. We should sort of extrapolate those and learn from them. Learn why it might be sort of not a good idea to to not question a company that we might work for if they're engaging in in target marketing, right? If we work for the company, we're compromising our values, and so again, the ethical practitioner is going to take all of these issues that we've talked about here, all of these areas of marketing and the ethical issues in business on the whole, I would say, and putting them all together and looking at it from a lens that is sort of more balanced, and more a macro level. If I'm taking chapter 6 for its practical sense, everything that's introduced to me in this chapter is teaching me about what kinds of issues I'm going to face in the corporate workplace as a worker, but also as a member, as a global citizen. What kinds of things am I going to see happening in the marketplace? So it's both of those, and that's essential to sort of take away from this chapter. I would sort of end off by saying that it's a good idea. There's a couple of good examples I haven't went through. Exercise 6.5 in your book, which is page 187 on insider trading. That's something we didn't get into talking about, but I would have liked to. So I would ask that you read that. There's also another exercise in your text on page 188, doing business the Walmart way, which is another real sort of social issue that people are thinking about when it comes to marketing and advertising. So I would ask you to take a look at that on page 188. And we are at the end of chapter 6. I'll see you next week for chapter 7.